All right, let's pull back the curtain on something that's hiding in plain sight, the world of ghost corporations. We're going to dive into a source called The Shell Game Empire to figure out how this trillion-dollar house of cards got built, how it actually works, and maybe most importantly, why its collapse could end up affecting every single one of us. The source kicks things off with this really chilling idea, because this whole thing isn't just about spreadsheets and tax codes. It's about what happens when the trust, the very glue holding our financial system together, just disappears. This is the nightmare scenario we're talking about if this shell game empire ever comes crashing down. So what exactly is this empire? Well, picture a house of cards, but on a global scale. We're talking trillions and trillions of dollars. But as you're about to see, the whole massive structure is basically propped up by companies that are, well, they're essentially ghosts. And that is the absolute key to understanding this. We're not talking about real companies with factories or employees or products you can buy. A ghost corporation is a pure financial instrument. It's a phantom on paper, and it's designed to do one thing really, really well: move money around to hide who owns it and where it's actually going. This right here, this gets to the heart of the whole deception. The source calls it an infinite money glitch, and it's all powered by this patriotic, made-in-America branding. You see this wholesome, all-American image out front, while this hidden financial machine is working in the background to exploit the very system it pretends to be a part of. So how on earth did we get here? Where did this unbelievably complex system even come from? Well, according to the source, it all goes back to one man's obsessive personal war against the U.S. tax code. And the origin story is not what you'd expect. It didn't start in some big Wall Street skyscraper. Nope. It started in a strip mall with a tax lawyer who just had a massive grudge against the IRS. It wasn't just business for him. He called it a psychological war, spending his nights tweaking spreadsheets to shrink a company's tax bill down to almost nothing. And that quote says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the aggressive, almost combative mindset that gave birth to this whole empire. The goal wasn't just to find a few loopholes. It was to wage an all-out assault on the system. And every single shell corporation was a weapon in that war. Now, to really get your head around how these ghost corporations can operate right under our noses, the source uses this fantastic metaphor. It's called the Financial Mullet. So let's break down what that actually means. So here it is, the two faces of the modern corporation. You've got the business in the front. That's the patriotic, job-creating image we all see. The cool ads, the tough trucks, the shiny headquarters. But then there's the fiction in the back, and that's where the real game is played. It's a tangled maze of shell companies designed to make profits magically disappear from the U.S. and reappear in some offshore tax haven. This whole process creates what the source calls a Jenga tower. So here's the super simple version of how it works. A U.S. company sells its own products to one of its shell companies for pennies. Then, that first shell company sells it to a second shell company for a massive made-up price. And just like that, the profit was technically made offshore, so it dodges U.S. taxes. Meanwhile, the whole structure just gets more and more unstable, like a Jenga tower about to topple. Okay, so we've seen how it all started and the basic mechanics of how it works. But now, let's talk about the real-world impact, because this isn't just a theoretical game. It has created some very clear winners and some absolutely devastating losers out in the corporate world. According to the source, things really went into overdrive in 2017. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was sold as a way to boost American businesses, became something else entirely for the companies that had already mastered the shell game. It became a kill shot, a legal weapon to crush their competitors and bring billions of dollars back home at shockingly low tax rates. And this created this huge divide. On one side, you had companies like GE and Pfizer, who used their super sophisticated networks of shell corporations to just thrive. They brought back billions. But on the other side, you have these household names, these icons like Sears and Toys R Us, who were basically dismantled by rivals who weaponized these same ghost structures to strip out all their assets and leave them for dead. If you want to really understand the sheer scale of this, just look at Delaware. It's described as the mothership of this entire system. Get this, the state incorporates more new business entities every single year than it has actual people living there. And these aren't bustling businesses, right? They're mostly just paper phantoms, legal shells, all ready to be used in the game. And
Here is the number that should really keep you up at night. The source estimates there's over $50 trillion in off-balance sheet debt. We're talking toxic assets and liabilities all hidden away inside these ghost entities. These are ticking time bombs. And when they finally go off, you can bet who's often left to clean up the mess: the taxpayers.
Now, you'd think that with a problem this massive, regulators would be scrambling to shut the whole thing down. But here's the final and maybe the most cynical twist in the entire story. The attempts to fix the problem have actually made the system even stronger.
So, the government did step in. New transparency rules were put on the books, designed to force these shell companies to reveal who really owns them. It sounds like the end of the line for ghost corporations, right? Problem solved?
The answer is a big, fat no. The system didn't break, it just adapted. The ghosts simply evolved, finding brand new legal structures and new technologies to keep playing the game, all while pretending to be compliant. And this chart really shows you the bottom line. It's the ultimate result of the whole game. While regular Main Street businesses are paying tax rates that can get close to 40%, the corporations that have mastered the shell game can get their effective rate below 10%. It's a direct transfer of the tax burden from the players who've perfected the game to everybody else. You know, the new front in this war is compliance itself. The regulations didn't shut the game down. They just created a brand new multi-billion-dollar profit center. The shells have pivoted from Delaware to places like Wyoming, and they're using new tools like DAOs, that's decentralized autonomous organizations, and even AI-generated trusts to create even more complex, more confusing layers of ownership. That Jenga tower of risk, it's not gone. It's just being built even higher. So the source leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. It kind of forces you to ask some fundamental questions about the financial system we all live in. In an empire built on ghost corporations and trillions of dollars in hidden debt, what's actually real? And what is just a number in a digital ledger waiting for the trust to finally run out?